The bottom line is the Arizona Cardinals offensive line has to be better. You could call them the bottom of the barrel line. See what I did there? Wordplay. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network on the planet and other planets. I've been told today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I want to read something from a poet of our times, okay, to kick off the show. I'm going to get sentimental with you guys amid the chaos and the mud and the muck that we've been experiencing this season. And I quote, no words, just picture like classical music. No words. I legitimately haven't seen the Cardinals get work like this since I started covering them. Those were the beautiful words of none other than my friend, Donnie Druin, Cardinals writer for Sports Illustrated. Donnie, so did it look better from where you were seeing it than where I was seeing it on Sunday, or was it still a crap box wrapped inside of another crap box?
It was exactly that. And I want to be clear, like I moved out to Arizona in 2012. I started covering the team. This is my 5th year doing so. So like I haven't been dialed into Arizona Cardinals football for as long as other people have. So whenever I tweeted that out, everybody was like, "Are you new here? Like, is this, did you just get here yesterday, or are you from another solar system?" So no, I think we all watched the same game. That was very unfortunate.
Yeah. Mine is always going to be 2018, and we're not going to go down the annals of Arizona Cardinals history, but 2018, when my favorite stat from that year is the Arizona Cardinals averaged 14.1 points per game, which was less than the 2008 Detroit Lions that went 0-16. So, like, that's where we were. That's where we were. That's my favorite stat from that year. That was a tough year hosting the show every day. But listen, we're going to talk about the coaching. We're going to talk about, is there anything redeeming other than Trey McBride? But first, like, it's not fair because these are human beings we're talking about and just continuing to pounce and pounce and pounce. I give a dumb disclaimer here that these are avatars of football players. We're not talking about the human beings. These aren't personal attacks because when it comes down to it, these are humans doing their job. Having said that, the meteoric fall of the offensive line needs to be studied. They ran it back. Will Hernandez came back, played when he was healthy. Isaiah Adams hadn't seen the field since. Jonah Williams has regressed. Evan Brown seems to be exactly who we think he is. And Paris was one of the highest rated Pro Football Focus guys from the Cardinals game. Why is it not working this year? Even when Kyler was here, like it was last year.
I think there's just a multitude of reasons. I was a pretty loud, not cheerleader. I was vocal on Clayton Adams' loss over the offseason being big.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be to the catastrophic proportions that we're seeing in Arizona. Like people forget too, like Adams was highly regarded as Jonathan Gannon's top assistant coach. Adams did far more than just coach the offensive line. He was heavily involved in game planning, scheming, all of that good stuff, which is why I think the offense as a whole looks noticeably different for the worse compared to 2024 like it is in 2025. I think you said it best. Like Evan Brown he is what he is. He's not the worst player on the offensive line, but you kind of get what you paid for with him. Will Hernandez has been a boost to the Cardinals offensive line since replacing Isaiah Adams. But even on Sunday, Alex, like, when your entire starting five is just like looking back, like the fish from like SpongeBob meme, like that's not good. Like that's not good at all. Jonah Williams, I think his time is far past due to leave the Arizona Cardinals, and thankfully his contract is up after this year. I think the mobility aspect from Jacoby, who's still able to navigate the pocket and escape whenever he needs to. We can talk about Kyler all day long, but like his athleticism spared a lot of sacks from the Arizona Cardinals offensive line, both last year and this year. They can't run the ball, which makes it so hard to establish play action and run it effectively, which I saw your tweet yesterday, by the way. I wholeheartedly agree. Like, why are the Cardinals and Drew Petzing consistently trying to use play action when there's just not a threat running the ball?
That's
not helpful.
Make the whole difference.
Right. It's just blew my mind in all of the wrong ways. But the main calling card of Petzing's offense is to establish the run and have everything go from there. But when you can't do that, it gets turned into this one-dimensional nightmare for 60 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, it was the 2-minute drill after they went down 14-0 for the rest of the game, which is like, that's not ideal. But so for me, with the Kyler stuff and Jacoby, like, I'm going to move away from talking about Kyler Murray because he's not a part of the starting team anymore. But with, the vitriol, I've talked to a bunch of friends that I've had in this space that are in media for a long time. They haven't seen the Kyler Murray side like react. Like, it was like poison coming in after the game. Like, well, Kyler would have done this. Kyler would have done this. Kyler would have done this. Here's the thing. As elusive as he is, 80% of the throws that Jacoby Brissett makes, Kyler Murray can't make. Okay? So you're balancing Kyler Murray getting out of the pocket, eluding sacks, when Jacoby Brissett can throw off Ben Roethlisberger-style defenders and still get a ball thrown. So it's 6-1, and neither of them are very good. So when you look
here's my thing. I can't, and like I think you put it perfectly. The Kyler Murray side was like loud after this Sunday, but like my biggest takeaway was the quarterback play was not my biggest concern, not my biggest top 3, top 5 takeaways. Like if you watched that Seattle meltdown and your biggest thing walking away from that game is, oh man, like that would have been different from Kyler. We're watching 2 completely different games. Kyler Murray would have not changed anything about the outcome in Seattle. Like the problem started up front with the offensive line. It started with the play calling, and like me, you, Jacoby, Kyler, like nobody would have done anything differently.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's not even like, well, the strip sacks. He didn't even know what his name was, and DeMarcus Lawrence was in the backfield. Yeah. Like, it was Olay. It's like, the A-gaps right now, Evan Brown, they just attacked Evan Brown. They attacked that side. And, I've got some Yalta Frohl pushback. I've got some Will Hernandez pushback. This is what we dealt with for a while with Justin Pugh towards the end when he was playing, obviously injured with DJ Humphries on the left side. It's like, the right side is only as good as its weakest link. And Yalta Frohl has no chance if he has no help on his left side. He can't block 2. It's an impossibility. On top of that, this was the biggest thing. We'll pivot to the coaching here in a minute. This was a glaring reality check that the Cardinals aren't close. Like, this defense, that offense, even though they pretty much took an ambi in the whole second half because they didn't have to do anything, like, this defense is what an elite defense is. You bring in some key vets. DeMarcus Lawrence had a career day that we haven't seen in a while. And then they traded for Leonard Williams a couple years ago. They drafted Byron Murphy. They drafted some of their backers in their corners. Devon Witherspoon. Like, this is what a finished product looks like from the defensive side of the ball. And while the Cardinals defense is better this year, when it's healthy, it could rival the Seattle Seahawks defense. But all in all, 1-53 and 1-22 starters, this is a different, this is in the stratosphere compared to where the Cardinals are on earth.
Yeah, and I would also add coaching to that too. Like,
yeah.
I think Kubiak is night and day a better play caller than Petzing is. McDonald, I think, compared to Gannon as like a kind of a defensive-minded head coach, has done more with the resources that has been made readily available to him compared to Gannon. But then I think you kind of bleed into the argument of, okay, well, like they got here in 2023, they had to strip the roster down to its bare bones. They had you and I on the defensive line for the first 2 years of the rebuild. So this is really the first time, and I remember saying this on the show, we haven't seen Jonathan Gannon coach a team with expectations in Arizona. This is our first real glimpse of, hey, JG, like these guys should make the postseason. They should be in the conversation heading into week 17, week 18. Like now there's actual expectations. This is the first time we've ever seen that. And I was still curious to see how it played out, but it's just like a barrage of bad luck, injuries, coaching play. It's like the perfect melting pot of everything that could have gone wrong for the Arizona Cardinals has gone wrong this year.
I just wish the injuries weren't it, so we could have really seen, and I think a lot of it, and I give credit to whatever, I don't, look at, I read your stuff. I check out some of my other buddy stuff, but it's like the no excuse for injuries thing is pretty prevalent. It's not like, oh, this is all happening because of injuries. Nobody talk, like, you got to give credit to the coaching staff for that. And I know we're grasping at straws, but it's like, this team hasn't been healthy since Carolina, So, and then obviously with Kyler going out, I don't know if whatever that means, I think the writing was on the wall pretty much at that point, but yeah, it's tough, man. It's not if, it's when things seem to go wrong with Arizona. And it's I thought going into this season that I would feel duped if we were here at this point. And I do feel duped, and I think I'm not the only one. So let's talk about coaching. I almost swore. We'll talk about coaching next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at Rippling. Here's the thing. If you're a business owner, you know that SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together, and that's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice, and that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place, and they've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync, and it's seriously simple to use. It gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by FanDuel. NBA's back. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Like, the NBA has been bonkers this year. Like, the NBA's been absolutely insane. Grayson Allen put up a 40 burger last night. I think Donnie was in the building. Who the hell knows? All is possible over at FanDuel. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. Donnie Druin, what's up? This sucks. It's like, I have you on around, free agency time, draft time, free agency time, and in the summer where it's list season, there's not much going on, so we just get to talk about the same stuff. The start of the season is really exciting, and then it just gets like we're Benjamin Buttoning back to bad, and it's just so the season is categorically most likely over, especially with the division strength that the NFC West is this year. Let me ask you this before we get to coaching. We always talk about talent. The toughest division in football. This year it's this. This year it's this. For me, there's like 10 stable organizations in the NFL, and 3 of them are in the NFC West. Like, you take the Rams, you take the 49ers, you take the Seahawks, and they've had their ups and downs. I know when Paul Allen passed and there were things that happened in Seattle, and then, Stan Kroenke, is insane. Les Snead almost got fired around the Jeff Fisher days, but they've righted the ship. And then, John Lynch came in and he almost got fired, and then they made it to the Super Bowl, and they've righted everything. And the Cardinals are that meme with the 3 serpents and then the one sticking its tongue out. Yeah. So 30%, if not more, of the stable organizations are in the same division where the Cardinals are. So not only are they dysfunctional, but they're going to go against Titans in that respect. How much of that has an impact on everything, do you think? And that's almost rhetorical.
I would say it has a decent amount of impact on everything, but still, you play 17 games in a season, those are only 6. Yeah. They're only almost a third of the schedule. Like, what about the other 2/3 of it? Yeah. And I do want to bring up the whole division matchups they're harder because the teams know each other a little bit better. And I do think there's some credence to that because you do see these guys twice a year that their ins and outs, and it's tougher because you know what they're going to run. Jonathan Gannon is familiar with Sean McVay. McVay is familiar with Shanahan, and Shanahan's familiar with McDonald. It's a never-ending loop, a circle. Here's what they call. Here's what they like. Here's what they don't like. There's not going to be a whole lot of surprises and wrinkles heading into his hand. It comes down to execution, and I think that's the kind of the perfect segue into talking about the 2025 Cardinals. Is they just haven't executed. The chess pieces have been on the board. The coaching staff, for the most part, has put them in positions to succeed. But we're talking about a Zay Jones drop pass in San Francisco, Amari DiMercado dropping the ball over the goal line. The Cardinals, for as close as they were, a couple plays away from being a 0-6, a 1-7 football team, there easily could have been a 6-2, an 8-1 team. But like that's just not the reality. Like in the NFL, you are what your record is. The Arizona Cardinals are in 3-6 football team because they can't execute whenever it comes down to it.
Yeah.
They have yet to play a full 60-minute game of football. And I think heading back to the Seattle game, that was really kind of the first time where I sat there and I'm like, okay, like they're getting outplayed. They're getting outcoached. They're getting outplayed. Like there really is no chance. Because even in the tough losses they've played against like other strong teams this year, they were in it until the end. Like looking at that Colts game, like the Colts are one of the best teams in football, and the Cardinals were this close to beating them. Yeah. But like Seattle just took another step where it's like, hey, like this is big boy football. Like this is a team nobody wants to play whenever the NFL playoffs start here in a few months. How are they going to stack up? And like I know it was on the road in Seattle. I know things were a little bit different without Kyler as compared to Jacoby, but like you almost beat this team a few weeks back on Thursday Night Football on a short week. Like the discrepancy should not have been that high. It simply shouldn't.
Yeah. And that's where then why are you blaming coaches if everything's on the field and the players aren't producing? And that's a hypothetical. That's a rhetorical, like that's my thing is like, okay, so yes, the everyday fan says, oh, it fired Drew Petzing. Okay, cool. Who's going to call the plays? Oh, sweet. Nobody on the roster, nobody on the coaching staff has done that before. Awesome. I'll fire Jonathan Gannon. Okay, so who then? Look at who's available out on the open market. It's the same thing with Kyler Murray when that happened. It's like when the defense through 7 weeks going into their bye gave up as many points in the first 3 quarters combined as they did in just the fourth quarter for all of those 7 games. Okay, so obviously something was amiss. I don't think that can be put all on Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon.
I would agree.
I don't think that Justin Fry even can make Jonah Williams a better offensive lineman. Like I know coaching and I know, I know game, like I get it all. That's why I'm a huge proponent of just write it out. Like what are you gonna do? What is firing Drew Petzing? Oh, it's gonna show you're a big man and just that means that everything that's been built up culture-wise outside of the lines that for other organizations doesn't seem like a big deal because a lot of times it's already there. This culture is completely different. It's a completely different organization from what it was. So you need to, I don't know, just harness that, ride out the next 9 weeks and don't re-up his contract. Like what I saw from Kyler Murray to what I saw with Jacoby Brissett, I looked at Drew Petzing and I'm like, I'm sorry. I apologize. Because if you were calling these plays and Kyler Murray couldn't execute them, that's not a coaching problem. So I'm sure they'll fire somebody, but do they need to?
It wouldn't make sense at this point in time unless they're like mathematically eliminated from the postseason. And then if they wanted to get a head start on getting some guys out of the building, sure. But like to your point, okay, Drew Petzing's contract is up at the end of the year. Why are you going to fire the only guy with not even extensive play calling experience, but just play calling experience in general?
Right.
Are we going to have Israel Warfork take over? Are we going to have Drew Terrell take over? What resumes do they have? And like that's not like taking a dump on those guys. I'm just saying like you need legitimate guys who know how to call an NFL offense. And obviously the jury is very much out on whether Drew Petzing is that guy or not. But there's nobody else on the staff where like you feel comfortable going, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I think I would like to see this guy take over play calling duties. It doesn't make sense. And I think we've talked a lot, Alex, about how Jonathan Gannon and his staff aren't reactionary. For the most part, that's been a good thing. That's been a good thing where it's like, oh, okay, one bad game. We're not going to get this guy out of here. We're not going to make crazy sweeping changes off of 1 or 2 games. But I do think we're kind of getting to that point where after such a large sample size of knowing what the Cardinals are in 2025, there hasn't really been a ton of changes made.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if you're going to be process driven, and I can understand, I appreciate emphasizing the process over the results and staying to it and believing in what you're doing. At what point does that line blur with, hey man, we're 3-6? Yeah. The NFL is a black and white business. You are you're a couple weeks away from being eliminated from the postseason in a year where you were supposed to make the playoffs. Something's got to change.
I think that Jonathan Gannon, and this isn't an excuse, this is based on empirical evidence what works. And I don't know why this isn't talked about more. Maybe it is. When Brandon Staley got hired by the Chargers, the first time head coach, as an 11-year-old who probably got ID'd for alcohol still as a 35-year-old, he had, who do you have? Jim Schwartz and Ken Wisenhunt or whoever it is. Like, you've got vets, coaches that are cocooning a young head coach. And Jonathan Gannon had two guys who never had that position before. So while, and this isn't looking back, I think Nick Rallis has been, by and large, fantastic his time here. And luckily for the Cardinals, the defense is sputtered, so he'll be around another year, you'd think. Like, he's not going to have this meteoric, he's going to be the next head coach at 30, whatever he is, under 35. But it's like, who do you turn to when Clayton Adams is gone and Jeff Rodgers is a special teams coach? This is far beyond the days of Tom Clement up in the ivory tower. Like, they don't have a Sherpa to follow. And I know that it's much ado about nothing at this point. We're splitting hairs. We're talking about, beating a dead horse. But, like, looking back, the recipe for success going into this season shouldn't ever have fallen on the coaching staff falling short. And I think early on it did. But then you saw what was exacerbated was the players just weren't executing in the fourth quarter, and you're not closing out games, and you're not falling on a fumble, and you're having a Laurel and a Hardy, exhibit where you can't fall on the ball with Rabbit, and then, Tennessee falls on in the end zone. Like, just a comedy of errors on the field too. So I wish I was like a Men in Black character where I had 9 arms to point at who's to blame this year. But I mean, let me ask you this, and then we'll pivot because we're going long here. Do you think even after they're eliminated from playoffs, which is more than likely inevitably going to happen, do you see a head roll or not?
I don't think so. I think the only guy who would make sense would be Petzing, but just his contract is up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to fire him if he's already kind of going to be out of the building after this year anyway. I'm not sure how that works with just like paying out the remainder of the contract anyways, but at the point, like, you're just doing it just to do it. And like, we can talk a lot about Jonathan Gannon's tenure in Arizona, but like, the one thing I can say about him is he's not going to do something just for the sake of doing something. And I think that's a trait of bad organizations. And people get so upset whenever Gannon gets in front of a microphone and like he just says the same coach speak stuff week after week after week, and people get tired of it. And he's not giving us the answers. He's not being this. He's not being that. Pointing fingers over a microphone is how organizations burn to the ground. So I commend Jonathan Gannon for not doing that.
Yeah.
I also think that's a trait of organizations in the same aspect of, hey, something happened. We're limited from the playoffs. Let's fire everybody. Let's tear this thing to the ground. Whatever. The Cardinals conceivably were this close from being the team we thought they were going to be. Yeah. Gannon's not that kind of guy. It doesn't seem like Monty Austinfort is that kind of general manager anywhere. It may be an assistant coach or two, maybe, but like as far as big people, absolutely not. I would be surprised.
This is what people, Cardinals fans and people are like, they're looking for the toxic approach because that's what they're used to. This is what stability looks like. Even though which is kind of a backwards way of what we're experiencing right now. These things, while Jonathan Gannon and I got heated on a show or two where it's like, you're patronizing the media members when you talk like that about after when a game happens. Like, and I'm not going to say you felt like that. I've talked to people who felt like that. Like, it's like, you obviously are lying right to these people's faces. What are we doing here? But then you go back to it. It's like, in the grand scheme of things, everybody loves JG. He's a good leader in the locker room. He's the antithesis of what a lot of coaches the Arizona Cardinals have had. He would be a perfect GM head coach if he could 100% close his eyes and have an offensive coordinator that could absolutely, knock that out of the park so we could just focus on coaching and eyeing in on the defense. And that hasn't been exponentially far off, but it hasn't been close either. And I think that's a huge downturn to a GM head coach who doesn't know anything about offense.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I fully understand why people get upset whenever they listen to a Gannon press conference. I get it. Like being 5 feet away from the dude and hearing him talk and kind of regurgitate the same message over and over again of, hey, it's me, I got to coach better, like this and that. I get it. I fully get it. But also, you have to shift the perspective. If Gannon is going to have to choose between saying what is probably the truth over the microphone of what really happened, who really messed up, why things are really going the way that they are, or just taking all of the ownership, absorbing all of the blame on him so he can protect the locker room. That's such an easy decision for him. That is such an easy call. And I think being in his spot, 99% of us would do the same thing.
Yeah, agreed. Let's talk about Trey McBride because, well, he's the top spot. He's the only entity on this team that you can trust unequivocally every snap he's on the field. We'll talk about it next.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Donnie Druin, Arizona Cardinals writer for Sports Illustrated. I don't like to be doom and gloom a lot. I think, having straight conversations about this sometimes is healthy. Because everything else is absolutely messing with everybody's mental health, which is fantastic. Trey McBride has been a vision. This is what we expected from him in this year. And maybe the biggest indictment of Kyler Murray is Trey McBride. Like, he was getting him the ball, but the depth of target is in a different stratosphere again with Jacoby Brissett. Chunk gains, it's not just getting him the ball 5 yards on a 3rd and 10 and making him, gut out the other 5 for a first down.
Yeah.
Like, he's open, and Jacoby Brissett is also throwing him open, and he's been by and large the best tight end in fantasy football and in regular football this year.
I think so many people weren't worried, but anytime a guy gets paid like he did over the offseason, it's like, here it comes.
Sure.
Here comes kind of the regression, but it seems like he's only gotten better. And I think he's gotten more reliable as a run blocker too. And he's really kind of molded himself. And you could have made his argument last year, Alex, to where he was one of the best tight ends in football. But because he wears an Arizona Cardinal logo on his helmet, not a lot of people paid a lot of credence to it. But replicating that production again, given everything that's going on, I think has only cemented himself across the national stage of, hey, this is one of the best, not only tight ends, but just weapons in the NFL. And for a Cardinals offense that has sputtered each and every direction, somehow, some way, week after week after week, it feels like something has gone wrong for them. He's been the one consistent for them. And that's impressive because you and I know that. Defensive coordinators know that too. It's not like Trey McBride surprises them every Sunday.
Right.
There are heavy game plans to take Trey McBride away, and he still puts up those Madden video game numbers. It's so impressive.
This is the first player since Larry Fitzgerald who's done it for this team. Where it's everybody knows, and don't you dare comment, I'm not comparing Larry Fitzgerald to Trey McBride. This is since Larry Fitzgerald was always open. And Larry was also ridiculous contested catches and stuff like that. Trey does that too, but it was kind of throw the ball and Larry's down there somewhere kind of thing. On top of him always being open, especially, in 2015 with BA, where it's just he moved in the slot and he's just this Adonis again. I always go to Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers. It's he's always open. Doesn't matter. He was always open. Goal line, red zone, 1st and 10 from the 1. It doesn't matter. Devontae Adams was always open and everybody knew he was getting the ball. Jamar Chase, in some respects, too. He's had a lot of different quarterbacks now with Joe Burrow hurt. But, yeah, Trey McBride's always open. And the beautiful part is he's getting thrown the ball so much. This isn't take the the dump down instead of waiting half a second and Trey McBride's crossing route for it to mature, and you can throw it over the DB, going from right to left. Like, it's the touchdowns, right side, deep out, always open, touchdown. Like, we've seen 2 in the last 2 weeks, and it's just like, this is amazing. This is great. And the best part is he loves being here. Okay. Yep. That's one of the things. You know what? We can talk about Trey McBride plenty. I want to talk about this before we get you out of here.
Yeah.
The mind screw of all of this is no infighting, nothing leaked to the press. Like, nobody's wanting out. People love being here. And I get some pushback on that, but it's like, you got to take the baby steps with an organization that has had a proclivity for star players to want out. So does that mean anything moving forward? Or is it just nice to have, and Calais Campbell's going to go be an Eagle next year or something?
No, I think both can be true. I think it could be just something nice to have, but also there's some credence too. I think my mind immediately went to the NFLPA report card this past offseason, where it's like, okay, well, and this is before Josh Sweat came, before Calais resigned, and Dalvin Tomlinson too. But it's like the facilities F, strength and conditioning F, like all of the things that, like, Jonathan Gannon, for example, can't control, FD, whatever it might be. But like the head coach got an A, and like the one or two other aspects of the team got an A. So it's like there are pieces there that would attract people to the Arizona Cardinals. But like there needs to be some more proactive steps to make this organization and its facilities more appealing. And I think we kind of seen that take baby steps, like you said, with Gannon since he's gotten here. They don't have to pay for the meals anymore. They're building a new facility in like a couple years. So like, it's not the quick progress, but it's progress, right? Like it's slowly becoming better. I just think, without being too critical, there are some things in Arizona that are holding the Cardinals back from really kind of taking that next step whenever it comes to free agents, because that grade of like the ownership and the team facilities and like the comments made about like the limited time for like family and friends.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Like, and like all those other little things, that's big. That's very big, and that's very important to those NFL players. And it just hasn't changed. But
when players talk, dude, all they're going to do is call a former Cardinal, be like, "What's this like? Terrible." But
at least there's casitas.
At least, well, and we talked about this. I will die on this hill. Everything went haywire when Michael Bidwell didn't call them cardcitas. It was right there, and he refused to call them cardcitas because it's the Cardinals and not casitas, and that's where we are. So, but Calais coming back, I thought that was like the olive branch. Like, okay, things are better now. He could have taken money anywhere. Yeah. So that's like I said, he was the most impactful signing this offseason because that shows that new times are here. So the fact that that's not the case on paper, at least, because they're 3-6 and they look pretty dysfunctional between the lines. I don't know. Like, some organizations, you can tell what the problem is, and I can't tell what the problem is. I know there is one. I just can't tell what it is. Donnie, tell people where they can find you, dude.
Yeah, at Donnie Druin on Twitter, and follow our work at sd.com/NFL/Cardinals.
Honestly, Locked on Cardinals. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.